Preview. Preview.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is my 8th video today to just recording stuff. It's stacking up. I don't know. In the car, driving around, making videos. It's living the dream. Have a good question here about events, which is exciting. But I got to thinking, I don't take YouTube very seriously, and some people, I've said that, and I've gotten kind of surprised by the reaction sometimes, where people get really angry, well, you should. We're listening. You should take this more seriously, and it's like. That's kind of exactly why I shouldn't. Like why none of us should. It's just this is just mindless entertainment. Maybe not mindless, but it's pretty close to mindless. And sometimes even the entertainment is lacking, right, Mumbles? You know what I'm talking about. But in general, I view these things and think, how can I do something funny or at least entertain myself and maybe a few others along the way? It's Joe and I talking about Gumroad was a great time for me. That was fun, and a few of you got a good laugh out of it. It was something kind of entertaining, looking at things a little bit differently. But when I look around YouTube, which is rare, God, everything's so serious. It's like breaking news: internal documents show Kathleen Kennedy is worse than expected for Star Wars. And it's like, I mean, I'm not telling those people they should stop doing that, but an alternative is also good. Having something else is also good because man, this stuff's grim. A friend shared a screenshot of Bob Saget autopsy disturbing, and it's like, oh my, no, an old guy fell, and it was sad, but it doesn't need to be like that. I mean, are we like I keep expecting to see some videos out there like the woke mafia put a hit out on Bob Saget. Oh, please don't do that video. Nobody wants to see that. But I've thought from time to time, like I should not prank people, but I mean, like I should reach out to Zach and have him do the "Hey everybody, this is Perch," but in his voice. Then he starts coughing, and then I just keep talking like nothing's happened, and see if anybody notices. I've mentioned stuff like that, and people have like, "Oh my God, you could never do that joke," because then nobody will ever talk to you again. Like none of the pros will ever talk to you again. It's like, I think they would, and if they don't, it's fine. I'll be fine. I want to have some humor. I want people to go, wait, what? What was that? Like, and I mentioned before, I'd love to interview Vita. Now, Vita's never going to do an interview with me, but I'd love to interview Vita. And that would not be a video where I'm like an interview where I'm trying to do gotcha with Vita. It's like, hey, why not? Why not? I'd love to. I kind of have before, but I haven't used it. Like, do an interview with, I don't know. I like I've always wanted to do this interview with Zub when I'm talking to him. Go, so what's it like? Inserting agenda into the like just this question. I've done that with Jeff Thorne before on live streams. It's hilarious, and we all laugh. But I don't know. You can't take this stuff too seriously. You just can't. I get some mails that are like, you need to take it more seriously. It's like, no, I would leave. I mean, we should. I don't know. If I'm only entertaining me, that's kind of a shame. But at least somebody's getting entertained. That's what I say. Anyway, I've wasted enough time here. Let's get to this mail. Events, how often? It's the mail goes, hey Perch, hope you're doing well. I was wondering how often you would like to see events at the Big Two, and perhaps just as importantly, how do you define an event? For example, Nightfall back in the day was an event, but compared to modern events, would be seen as more of a title crossover since there was no core miniseries and no one-shots. Ideally, I'd like to see them no more than once per 3 years at the publisher, but I know this is unrealistic. At this point, we're lucky to go 8 months without one. 8 months. I think that's also optimistic. I think you're lucky to go 2 months, honestly. Just a quarter. Can we have a quarter with no events? It'd be this magical 3-month period. It'd be amazing. Anyway, so kind of a couple questions there. How do I define an event? I think there's a broad definition or a narrow definition. So the narrow definition would be there's a mini series, named the event, got some crossovers, got some one shots, got some, things into it. Examples of that would be Secret Invasion, Civil War, presumably Dark Crisis or any of the other crises for that matter would fit into this. That would be a tightly defined event. A more broadly defined event would be things like, this is kind of the crossover. Devil's Reign is an event. It's got its own event comic. It's got its own branding, its own logo. That's an event. Something like Nightfall, like you mentioned, I don't know, you can make an argument. So, what is Ten of Swords? Was that an event? It had an Alpha and Omega issue, but it was also just an inner crossover of all the titles. I would still label that as an event. To me, an event is that you're basically being asked to buy things that you wouldn't normally buy in order to get the full story. That to me is an event. So, under those definitions, a lot of things kind of wind up being events. Back in the day, things like Nightfall, you could miss some of those comics and you'd be okay. I mean, you'd still miss things, but generally you'd be okay. And that's how an event used to be. Today, events, I love it when they say you don't have to buy all the titles, but you kind of do. Certainly of the core series and the core tie-ins, and then all of the extra crossovers are almost the exact opposite. Not only do you not have to buy them, it's questionable why you would buy them. If you think about War of the Realms, there are a bunch of books that tied into that, a bunch of new series. Like, what was the one with the giant growing, the characters who could grow big? Giant Man and Goliath and kind of these characters all went off and they dressed up like trolls to go infiltrate something. There was no point to that story, meaning I guess it was an entertaining story, but it didn't connect into anything. It didn't matter. It was in the context of War of the Realms. It was clearly in War of the Realms world because like it revealed that Florida had been turned into like a Asgardian territory anyway, I don't even remember, but it was clearly connected to that event, but none of it had any bearing on the event. And a lot of the King in Black stuff was the same way. A lot of the Empire stuff was the same way. It's like, hey, there's plants attacking here, and there's some kind of battle to take place, but nothing really came of it, and it doesn't matter, and just doesn't matter. And I think that's unfortunately where we're at these days. So that's a lot of things are considered an event under that definition. If it's got titles you wouldn't normally buy to comprise a story, then that's an event. I think everybody has their own definitions, and you might have your own, and that's fine. Whatever yours is, and please in the comments below, let us know what your event, what's your definition of event. But the other part of it is how many events are too many events. Look, there's definitely event fatigue, and so but also we've been trained that if it's not an event, it doesn't really matter. So you kind of had two problems on your hands. One, the publishers are doing too many. Two, because they've trained the audience that if it's not an event, it doesn't matter. It's created this interesting case where unless they do it as an event, sales are lower and people just kind of ignore it. And that's a bad place to be. So what has to happen is we got to wind back the event. So we have to start making some of these, in title storylines mean more. Now, the problem that you've got for the publishers is if they do that, they're not going to sell as well because, they've trained their audience that they don't inherently matter. But but they have to do this for a while and make people miss it. So basically, you're going to put really important things into the main title, stuff that really actually matters, not status quo changes. Like over in Fantastic Four, Dan Slott's made the Human Torch, always on fire. And it's really bad. And so the character is showing up in other things, and they'll do a throwaway line like Johnny can't turn himself off, which is I see what you did there. But it doesn't. It's not really a massive change. We're all aware that at some point somebody's gonna fix that problem for Johnny. It's not going to stay this way forever, and then we'll go back to normal. It's kind of like when Hickman killed off Johnny Storm. We knew that he'd come back at some point, so we waited out, and eventually he was back. So that's kind of the challenge and dynamic that a lot of these comics have. So what they're going to need to do is put some real meaningful crossover type things in a comic, not make a big deal out of it as an event, but just roll it out as part of the core title. A bunch of people will miss it. The title will sell out. It will do great for retailers on the back issue market, but the publisher won't see any of that money. But they're going to have to just go, okay, well, we're just going to have to live without seeing some of that money. Like Empire. Why not just do Empire within the pages of the Avengers or the Fantastic Four? Do it in one of those. Roll it out as a 10-issue storyline. Don't cross over. Just have it there. have guest appearances by whatever team isn't in the book you're doing it in, and it will be better for you. What will happen is that you will slowly retrain your buying audience that, yeah, they actually should buy the ongoing titles and they should pay attention because big things happen there too, like they used to. And then dial back your events. Now, the industry is wholly dependent on events for money. So this isn't going to happen. Right now, if they rolled back events to say one every 3 years, their numbers would crater in a bunch of places. That's not good. So they've got to ease this back. Start by just doing one a year, for example. Start by doing more to kind of promote the fact that these big things are happening in the core titles. It's going to take you, somewhere between 2 and 5 years to start to, for that to sink in to your audience. But that's what they need to do. You need to start to back it away. You need to start to do this because it will make for a healthier industry. It's like you got to wean yourself off the dependency of variant covers and incentives. You got to get some other things going in your marketplace. So you're not dependent on omnibus sales to spike numbers from time to time. You got to start doing this, but it's going to be a painful path. But the thing is, and Marvel's better positioned to do this in DC. If Marvel came in under numbers for Disney, but they told Disney that this was going to happen ahead of time, like, hey, over the next 2 years, we're going to do this, but it's going to create a more stable business. It's going to generate better IP for you. It's going to be better for you overall. But, we're going to be soft on numbers for 2 to 3 years. It's just what's going to happen. And hell, explain that to the market as well. Go ahead and tell, the buying audience, do those interviews with ICV2 or The Beat or whatever, saying, you know what, we're going to put some emphasis on our, core monthly titles. We're going to back away a little bit from event books. And so sales are going to be lower. Just explain that up front, and it will be better. It just go with that strategy. It's a good strategy to run, but it's going to take some time to make that all filter through. So that's what they should do. It will be painful, definitely. In several cases, it will be a learning experience for them, but it's the right thing to do for the market. And that's my answer. So how many events is too many events for you? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, as always, and thanks for listening.